Oh, man.
You're trying to take us all out at once?
That was almost like when you about your pants in Spokane when the car backfired.
We're walking down the street and some car backfired. And I'm like, what the? I almost hit the deck. I was like, someone's shooting.
Contrast is a collaborative work, a podcast fully produced and hosted by the officers and residents of the Idaho Correctional Institution in Orofino.
All right.
Would you like me to do an intro?
No, I got the intro. I'm just waiting for the icy water to quit and for some lips to quit flapping. Welcome back to Contrast. In this episode, we're going to talk about the Pocatello Women's Correctional Center. And we have with us today Warden Janelle Clement and Deputy Warden Sean Trevino. Also with us is Warden Carlin from ICIO, Deputy Warden Amy Anderson.
And I'm Dave.
And Dave.
Resident.
And myself, Kent Shriver, Deputy Warden of Operations. Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Would you mind introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about your experience?
I'm Sean Trevino. Been a deputy warden for 7 months, 6 months, somewhere in there, fairly new to it. Came up in the restaurant business. Started at Pocatello Women's Correctional Center in 2006. Worked as an officer, corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, and here I am now.
All right.
Janelle Clement. I started with the department 5 years ago, but initially I served in different capacities. I worked in probation and parole and law enforcement, and that kind of gave me the taste for what it was. And then I got my bachelor's in social work, and I went on to get my master's in social work. And I worked 8 years with juveniles and juvenile correction, and then did some outpatient drug and alcohol facilitation of different things for therapy, and then came to the adult setting at Pocatello Women's Correctional Center 5 years ago as the mental health clinical supervisor, and then transitioned to the warden 2 years ago. I'll tell you a little bit about PWCC. We are a maximum custody facility. We have approximately 350 ladies, so it ranges from a community custody level on up to death row.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was wondering if the women's facility, if it's different than operating in a men's facility, if you guys have any unique problems or unique situations that is different from us and what we experience here.
I'll just go from a guy's perspective. There's a huge learning curve being a male entering a female correctional facility. You have to understand communication's key. If you can't take the time to explain the why, with a guy can go, hey, can you go up on the roof, change air filters, this, that, the other, they're good with it. With the female population, it's always, well, why me? Why am I changing the filters? How come you didn't get Susie to change the filters? Right. She was the one that worked, type deal. So really it's just communication and slowing everything down and making sure.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest difference, probably, from men and women from my standpoint as far as managing the populations.
It seems like the average person, if you were to talk about corrections or inmates or prisons or prisoners, they're going to automatically think male, and they're going to automatically picture a male prison. It seems like maybe they just kind of cut and paste the women's system after the males. And I wonder if that causes any kind of difficulty in what you guys do for your jobs there.
You're absolutely dead on. They did. They took a primarily male-dominant system. Our policies and procedures, our classification system is set up for men. And then our population for women is just doubling in the nation. Idaho is 4th in the nation as far as the rate we are incarcerating women, which is not a good thing. And so our women are overclassified. Men, typically, their crime tend to be a little more aggression or violence involved. Our women tend to be more along the lines of drug and alcohol crimes and more relational in nature. And so it is a very male-dominant system that now we have to try and transition into how to support women and how to classify women. So when you get a DOR, a disciplinary offense, those points add up and are very different for a man versus a female. And so Idaho is really working towards moving to being gender responsive, which means we're just looking at creating an environment through where we look at site selection, program selection, staff selection, a lot of different components. It's to meet the different realities that women have for parenting, for mostly when women come to prison, they're still responsible for their children. They're still responsible for the household. They're still responsible for a majority of the life. And so there's just different needs that men and women have. It's not that one is better than the other. They're just very different.
Right. Yeah, I read a statistic that 64% of female inmates are the primary providers for their children.
Correct.
And it seems like, I wonder if maybe your programs reflect that. Does it help them in a way that maybe we don't need it here, but maybe parenting classes or, is there special programming that's for that?
They have some ancillary programs that we can do. Times of COVID have kind of limited our focus right now, but we do offer some parenting skills and some budgeting skills and some education. I think our women's system has really failed, though, in education and job skills. The men have access to welding and construction skills, which is really a good paying job. For our females, our other side has been offering, how to sew and how to do secretarial work. And it's just very gender stereotypical. And we have some women who are really great welders and really great at construction. And so being able to have some equitable skills to send them back into the community to support their family is just where we're kind of focusing on and bringing that training in to offer those things to them.
Well, we talk a lot here about how the system's changed. I've been in the system for 20 years now, and it's changed drastically over that time. And it seems like maybe they're starting to catch up for the women's side too then.
We're working on it. Yeah, it's come a ways, but I think there's some things that we're looking to plug those holes and give them some more strengths to make it a little bit more equitable.
Did you see a spike in females coming in because of, I don't know how to put it, but crimes where they were, when we were talking earlier, bringing in product to male offenders into the male facilities? I know for a while there before COVID, there was quite a few arrests made in Boise. Do you see a lot of crimes where the females can't say no, or they're doing business for
trafficking.
them? Trafficking. And
we have a lot of females who, because they've been holding the product for their significant other, they now get the trafficking charge. They're, in a sense, muling it for them or holding them for it. But it's not their crime. Typically, they're taking the fall for a significant other. So they're ending up with really harsh punishments when they're not. Those laws were kind of intended for your big kingpins and people that are moving heavy traffic all the time. Not so much with our females.
I think part of that has to do with the fact that for many, many, many years, women could get away with a lot more crimes, a lot more court appearances than men could, with less harsh crimes or sentences, And I think as a general rule, some of those individuals that were living that criminal life recognized that and chose to utilize the women in their lives to conduct those criminal behaviors. And it's a shame that it continued, but I think that the courts and judges are finally starting to see that this is what's happening. And my guess is they're hoping that will be a deterrent for them to start getting some of those harsh consequences.
Yes, and you also see, though, as the patriarchal system looks at men and women, that women are held to a little higher standard. You're the mom. You're supposed to be taking care of the house. You're supposed to be the responsible one. And so, therefore, that creates that discrepancy on how come we're hitting women who have the duplicate crimes to men so much harder.
Right.
Yeah.
I was surprised to learn that it's almost for serious mental illnesses are almost double for women than they are for men in the correctional system. Is there anything special or different that you guys are doing there that we're not doing here?
I don't know per se different, but I think there needs to be a different focus allowed. So it's like a dual diagnosis, right? You come in and you have a co-occurring thing if you have substance use disorder and mental health, which mental health a lot of the times for our population, I would say probably 96% of our females coming in all have trauma in some form in their life, which men have trauma as well. It's on a lower scale, and it's usually a different level of trauma. They've been exposed to domestic violence. There's just more exposure, some physical abuse. You know, as a child, there's a sexual abuse as well to men, but the higher prevalence is to women. And so they're coming in with significant trauma, which then increases your likelihood for high mental health as far as being able to manage and cope with the mental health and the trauma of that. So you turn to drugs and alcohol to mitigate those symptoms. And so there is a higher prevalence of that due to the trauma. And I think the department's really heading in a direction of being trauma informed. I think it's good for men and for women. It's good for all of us because we're not typically in the system because life was fantastic. We've had some pretty harsh things happen to everyone. And so if we can be trauma informed, which basically means we're looking at circumstances and environments, and instead of yelling at, screaming at someone, which may trigger your, PTSD, how can we come at you at a lower level, and how can we talk to you, human being? It's also, what does your environment look like? Is it harsh? Do you want to heal, and do you want to work on yourself when it's just bars and black and white and concrete? And so there's things we can do to be trauma informed in just how we approach people and listening. A lot of times our women, we don't want you to fix our problems. We just want you to listen. Right. And so they're just listening. We just want to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And that's the main difference, I think, between a man and a female facility, is just the ability to listen and kind of validate where they're at. You've had a rough time, and we're here for you in that support level, because I don't need you to fix my problems, I can fix them myself, maybe not very well. But it's about really looking at those things that really created the reasons why you're in the system. Nobody grows up with criminal thinking typically, right? It's learned, it's a taught behavior over time, whether that's your family or whether those are trauma-based. But if you can get to the root of those issues, that comes from the trauma, which stem out into mental health and the criminal system, it's just different avenues that you come in the criminal system. I really think we can get the core of helping people and providing them skills and avenues and coping skills to be better and to be successful in the community.
Well, and I just want to point out that I believe that's what makes you an amazing warden where you're at right now, because you have a vision right now of where you want to take that facility and what you hope to do with that female population that you guys are working with.
Thanks.
So we're talking about the differences between men and women just a little bit, right? So while this may be a little bit taboo in our current environment, culture, I think that we all know that there's clearly a difference between men and women when it comes to the relational aspects of things and emotions, on top of all of the other traumas that are different than men. Can you guys talk? And maybe Sean, you can kind of go into this a little bit too, because we don't want to leave you out.
Sorry.
No, this is perfect. I thrive on this kind of stuff, so bear with me, guys. From a security standpoint, you guys have a facility that is basically built the same as a men's facility. How does that work when you have females that have really different needs relationally and emotionally? I would love to hear more about that and how you guys are maybe trying to deal with those things. Is there different physical layouts that you try to make or can? I don't know if you even can. And then also discuss how the current disciplinary process does not meet the needs for our women. And you guys just take it from there, bounce things off of each other. I'd really like to know from your perspective those things.
So, physical plant-wise, the one thing we do have going for us is it's a lot of the institutions, when you go through them, they have the pods. You know what I mean? Your officers are up in the tower, skywalk, whatever you want to call it. Our officer stations are right there on the floor. The commons area is their area. There's no barriers between the staff and the residents. So that's one nice thing we have. We've been trying to do some things as far as decoration wise, plant wise, soften things up that way. I was gonna say it's a rough environment to simulate a home style environment. You know what I mean? It's hard, it's concrete, it's windows, it's slamming doors, it's, all those things. We do have one housing unit where the residents have keys to their doors and can lock their doors, and kind of simulates that home type atmosphere. But when you got a bunch of people packed in that room, it still doesn't doesn't meet the muster.
I also remember when that facility opened, you have bathtubs. Mm-hmm. We don't have those in male facilities, and that was a big deal for them to put those in. I remember Bonna Miller advocated for those bathtubs. Do they use them?
Yeah, they're still there, still using them.
Do the residents use them?
Not as like a bathtub, because it was a big deal. Fill it up and get in a bathtub.
That would be weird to me as an inmate or as a resident to. It would seem like a very vulnerable position for me to be in, to ever, to use a bathtub. That would just seem really weird to me.
I'm not aware. Yeah, I'm not aware they use them that way, just because you're kind of exposed and you're more lounging versus in there doing what you need to do, hygiene to clean up and get go. I think women are different, right? When I get home at night and I'm hurting, I want to soak in my tub.
Yeah.
But it's safe for me to do that, right? Yeah. No one's going to come in my door. And so I think it has its place if it's used right in maybe a community setting. Your Twin Falls, places, your East Boise, things
more
like
privacy where you can shut the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And have a little bit more ease in doing that. They are there. They are not used, sadly, anymore. And so for me, it's a little bit of a security risk. Like I was explaining earlier, as I go in to do a shower check and I look under a curtain to see if there's only one pair of feet, I see a bathtub because the curtain's there.
Oh, right.
So there could be 3 people in there, and I don't know. And so it's a little bit of a security risk the way it is now. I think there's a place for them. And I think also it's okay to think outside the box with these things, because just because we haven't done it in the past doesn't mean we can't do it in the future. Just how can we do it safely?
Right.
With those things. If you look at the new facilities for women that are being made, they're very much more like a college dorm setting. It's a little more open. You've got your rooms. The day rooms are open, lots of windows. They're beautiful. And it is just more like you're at a dorm. You're at a college dorm, and versus lock and key.
That was kind of what I was touching on about the system, how it's changed over the years, And I think that's great. I think it's great that it's sometimes, like I said, they kind of cut and paste our system for them. So it's good to see that they're evolving too, just as much as we are here.
Mm-hmm. I also think there's, a time and a place for that for you as well. When you guys are ready to transition, I think it's a hard transition to go from here behind a fence and walls and slamming doors to, hey, good luck out there.
Yeah.
It's like dropping you off a cliff and being like, good job, good luck. And so I think that ease in the community of learning how to navigate and come back and have some anxiety about this is how my day went, and you process it with people and then you go back again, is that transition time is needed. And we just don't, I think we haven't historically had the resources to provide that for as many people as I think we could take advantage of, but we're heading in that direction.
Yeah.
So I want to add to that before we get into the disciplinary stuff, because you know me, I got things going off. Women that come into prison pregnant, what does Idaho offer them right now as far as, and I know what the answer is, but I'm going to ask you to explain it. So you have a woman that arrives and she's 6 months pregnant at your facility. She's not a writer. She's a termer. Let's say she's got 10 years to go. What happens?
She goes to the hospital. She delivers her baby, and she's there maybe 6 to 8 hours, depending upon delivery. You're maybe there 4 hours post-delivery with your baby, and then you're back to the facility and the baby goes home.
The baby goes with either a family member that is now considered the guardian.
Correct.
or foster services.
Correct. It doesn't come home and back with, and they don't get a lot of extended time to hold and bond with their baby, and it's something to me is heartbreaking. I do not like the way it's set up. As COVID is now, we had started to open up visiting for a little bit, and we had to shut it down due to some increasing rates. I have new mamas who have had their babies and have not had a visit yet, again with that baby for 6-8 weeks. And it's heartbreaking that we don't do a better job of bonding, being able to let them pump and be able to come and pick up the breast milk and have a system for that. At one of our sister facilities, South Boise Women's Facility, they've come up with a process where they can do that. They have a refrigerator, and it has to be under lock and key, and there's just a very direct way to do it. So we're looking at bringing that to PWCC. There are so many things that we can be doing better for mamas and babies that just takes thinking outside the box a little bit. Just thinks, what is it hurting? Can they have a visit? Could they even have a room where they have an overnight visit with their children? Can you come, stay the night? I can fix you dinner and do some things. So much room for improvement because it is such an important time for the mom and the baby. I think we could even cut down on our baby blues. Our mom is getting depressed and not having their child, and we can just do better in that department. Sean, what do you think?
I agree. And up to delivery, the process doesn't change. So, for example, you're pregnant, you've got that extra weight on. Guess what? You got the same 4-inch mattress everybody else has got that's been around for a couple years. There's no added, you have the prenatal checks and things that you're doing in that nature, but there's no added comfort for facility living for someone who comes in.
They don't get a picture of their ultrasound. They don't get to, have a significant other, present even when the delivery happens. So if you're a partner, you don't get to come to delivery. You are notified after the baby's born, and then you can come. We don't notify family when they're going into labor. And I get that there's security risks involved in that, and I think we can look at doing something better.
When these residents experience this and they go through this, do you see a spike in disciplinary issues? Do they act?
Not so much. It's more depression. So for women, I'm not a man, so you can tell me if I'm wrong, but men externalize their anger, right? They're pissed off. I'm going to get mad at you. We internalize our anger and our depression, and so I'm going to self-harm. I'm going to become suicidal. I'm going to think I'm worthless. I'm going to internalize it, so the behavior comes out that way. Now, our gals that we know are more high risk for aggressive behavior, they may end up getting there, but it's about 15 things that have added up by the time they act out and get in a fight. It's not truly, the trigger is very different. So that's one way men and women are very different, which leads us into that whole disciplinary system.
Right.
And I didn't bring that up just to, smash on Idaho's system, but what I like is the fact that you guys, as well as our own leadership, recognize that we are very, very lacking in that aspect. And I want to say, Amy, didn't you go to a conference in Iowa?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. In Iowa, I went to a female facility for a tour and actually walked away with a lot of good ideas for the honors unit came from that. But they had a visiting room, but they also had a room for families to come in, and they spend 24 hours with them, and there's a kitchen in there, and they of course earn that.
Correct.
But they're doing that bonding like you're talking about. And I also remember being a correctional officer at Pocatello and having to sit through the birth of an inmate having, or a resident having a baby. On 2 different occasions I did that, and that was traumatizing for me. I was just like, this is horrible. They don't have any family. It's you, the correctional officer, sitting with them. And so it's sad.
It's heartbreaking. I mean, it almost makes me a little tearful to talk about it. And I'm thinking, we're doing such a disservice. And I just think we're at a time, though, where we can start thinking outside the box. And I approve special visits all the time for, yes, you bring that baby in, and it's so they can have a special visit with their mama. You get 4 hours with just time to do that. 4 hours, though, even it's not enough.
It probably goes by too fast.
It does. So we're working on that one, and really we have some big goals and dreams that we're looking at, and it will take some time, but.
Well, I have hope because I've seen so much change in the last few years that I think next few years are going to bring a lot. It's going to look like a whole different system, and I believe it's moving in the right direction.
Yep.
I think we're fortunate too to have some leaders like you, Warden Barlow Hust, who was a big advocate for her female population. We've watched her.
Warden Neville was amazing as well.
Yeah, they are very passionate. Once they've gotten into that population, understood it, they became just advocates for them, and they get you motivated because they start talking about what we need to be doing and moving forward. And so then you just, like, you can listen to Noelle talk and you get goosebumps because she's so passionate about making change for that population.
Well, it's believing in growth, and it's believing in there's a better way to serve people. People come to prison as punishment. Being in prison should not be the punishment, you know. Sean, do you want to talk about the DOR system? You're better at that.
Yeah. It's just not set up for the female population at all.
So the same DOR codes and terminology is used for every facility in the state, to include you guys. Okay.
Yep. And the behaviors out of that population are significantly different, very few. So for example, a harassment DOR in a men's facility should look different than a harassment DOR in a women's facility because the level of harassment is different, but the terminology that's contained within that policy or that phrasing, it makes it fit. But I don't know if that makes sense. The female doesn't have the same intent behind the harassment as the male had. Yeah. And I think if those areas could be expanded on, or just a separate policy for female population in general. I, for one, don't think there should be Class C DORs in a female population. Yeah, B and A in an infraction. Class C DORs keep people from going home.
Right.
Making your bed should never be a reason not to go home. Right? So as far as with that stuff and looking at the disciplinary process, because as an officer coming on, you're literal in your translation of those. We don't teach gray area. We teach black, white, know until you know different, hold them accountable, follow the policy, and you're doing exactly what you're told to do. Female population, contact, right? They like to touch, they like hugs, they like all that type stuff. But in the policy, for example, the disciplinary policy says brief hug, kiss, touch, lingering touch, Class C DOR for physical contact. Yeah. Well, we don't do that with men, right? But we still do it with female population.
And that's a big difference there. Like, I remember walking into a male facility and seeing high fives and chest bumps. Yeah. But yet in a female facility, somebody gives a hug, and I have certain COs that are going to be like, that's a DOR. Yeah. And we're touchy, and we need the hug. And an appropriate contact, right? Now, not a lingering hug, but there's a time and a place for appropriate contact.
Right.
And so anyway, it just comes down to, number one, a training issue, a verbiage issue, and what that, there's appropriate contact, and then there's inappropriate contact, and what that looks like. And we're really good at teaching people black and white. We're not really good at the gray. Right. You know what I mean? Someone has a family member pass away, they should be allowed to hug. Yeah. You know what I mean? They should be able to find who they want to give a hug to on that unit, and that not be a thing.
We should be able to know the difference between grieving and a sexual hug, or a hug that's meant to be grooming. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you don't know. It could be your mom, your sister, your daughter, your brother. If my daughter comes to prison, I don't want to think that she's never going to have a hug for the next how many years of her life. Like, that's awful to me. Right. But I think also that the key thing there that I think is important for people to know, we want to make a difference, and we don't always get to see the difference. I have some women that will call back in and update me, which is fantastic. But I also said, call me when you're having a rough day. You can still call in if you need some support. That it doesn't have to stop when they hit the door. And it might be just one conversation. And if that person goes out and they relapse in 6 months versus 2 days, it's still a win when they're back. Like, those wins are, if it took longer, if it, whatever that is, well, I didn't relapse on heroin. I used pot and got in trouble. So it's a win. Like, you've got to start looking at what we do have and the progress we're making. Sometimes it's incremental. And then you take that and build on it. So we may not know the difference that we're making on a day-to-day basis, but you are making a difference, whether we get that feedback or not. To see it, you just don't know whether that one conversation, you hear it all the time. It was this one CO, one sergeant took a minute, and they just listened, and you did it one time, and you have no idea that you've just now impacted their life for good. And so being that positive role model and treating people how you would want your family members treated, with just kindness and respect, it's not hard to be kind. It really, truly isn't. It's really simple. So just being kind is the suggestion I would give.
Amy, you should take that suggestion. It's very appropriate.
Talk to her later.
I don't have to be kind to you.
But not talk.
No, don't
just
talk.
Take this suggestion.
Just not be kind to you.
Speaking of role models, we've got
She's not, Kent.
we've got two female wardens of prisons, and we got one deputy warden here that are all female. What do you
Thank
guys,
you for noticing.
do you guys see yourselves as role models for young ladies or young women?
God help them if they think I'm a role model. But unfortunately, yes, I think with power comes responsibility. So yes, I am a role model. I think I'm a role model for everybody, though. I hate to think that it's just for women. Of course, I'm going to encourage the right woman, to continue doing well in corrections. And yes, again, I just took over this conversation, but that's just the way I am. I love what I do. I love the opportunities that I have to be what I call a community activist, because what I'm doing here is creating a safer environment for my kids and for my loved ones and for the rest of the community, because hopefully what I'm doing is I'm teaching people how to have empathy and care for their neighbor. And so, like Warden Clement said, we should be looking at all of those little successes as wins. If somebody chooses to relapse, but not on heroin, but rather pot, by all means, that's a success story. And it means that we've made a difference. And we continue to do that. I think people forget that what we do in here doesn't just impact the residents. It impacts their spouses, their parents, their children, their grandparents, their potential future children, their potential future wives or husbands. We're impacting thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people every day.
Well, and I think it's interesting because sometimes I don't always stop to look at myself as a role model, because I'm just being me and being really authentic to who I am as a person, what's important to me. And, I stop to look at it and I think, oh my goodness, if cauliflower can become pizza and a social worker can become a warden, like you too can be whatever you want to be.
Right.
It really is endless. Warden was not on my trajectory as like my goals when I was little, neither was a therapist, neither was, I didn't have, it wasn't set on my resume to work with sex offenders. I did that for 15 years and it was good work, helping, teaching and learning, So there's things that I think we don't realize we even have the potential to do. But getting people to see that you really open your doors, go try things. If you come be a CO for me and it doesn't work, that's okay. You found out that that's not your thing. What is your thing? How can I help you be the best at whatever you want to be? And so just guiding people to find that authenticity of what's your passion, where does it lie, is crucial in just growing better people in general, whether it's the women I work with or my neighbor or my children or my grandchildren. It's just, how do you want to be the best you can be? Because it's true. Sometimes I'm only 2 years into being a warden, and I'm still very humbled by the fact that I'm like, what? I'm a warden? It's very weird because I'm not.
Doesn't sound like she walks around like Tarima.
No.
Yeah, I'm the boss.
No.
Listen to me.
Throw on the badge because I said so.
Do you know who I am?
Do you know how important I am?
Yeah. It's just, it humbles me to have that ability to impact people's lives. And I don't take it for granted. You try to remember the importance there. And whether it's women's facilities or, men are just, I worked with juvenile men, but never in a men's facility. So that's very different for me. I think it's simpler, yet the same, it's just a little bit of empathy, compassion, and listening. The ones that are the hardest and the loudest tells me the level of hurt that they've got somewhere in there that they're compensating for. And so when I'm talking to people about whether it's men or women, and you're acting out, getting curious, what's driving that behavior? How come you're angry, right? Tells me something about you, because you getting angry at me really isn't 9 times out of 10 what it's about. There's something else that's underneath that, and being able to help people find that and getting curious about behavior instead of labeling, and you're mean, you're aggressive, they're disrespectful. Okay, yes, and how come, and what can we do to impact that and change that?
All right. Well, we thank you for coming on to our podcast on short notice and talking with us. And so thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it. I'm much more calm now. You want to start over?
Let's not.
I thought you guys did a really nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's controlling the podcast again.